Now, when they found that ancient Greek computer thing, on what is that called?
The Antikythera Mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what does it do?
And it has been determined that that analog computer was used to predict astronomical events.
Historians were mocked by the Antikythera Mechanism for over a century, a machine that was half lost and half survived the ocean. The front gear was gone, but the rear gears murmured about eclipses and calendars, kept quiet for 2 millennia. That quiet has now been broken.
This was a spectacular device. It's an analog computer. It doesn't use digital. It uses wheels and gears. This was a device that we wouldn't see again for another 2,000 years.
Letter by letter, artificial intelligence repaired the broken inscriptions, giving engineers the blueprint to reconstruct the lost information.
After they were able to finish their thousands of scans of the 82 pieces, something truly amazing emerges, and that is they find light.
Historians are sufficiently alarmed by the piecemeal return of the lost half.
And they also use a computed X-ray tomography to get closer looks on the inside. What this will help them to do is to create a highly detailed 3D image of the mechanism for the very first time.
Like many others in the Aegean Sea, the spring of 1900 got underway. Storm broke in calm waters, waiting for windows for diving. However, one team wasn't searching for lost history or gold. They worked for their captain, Dimitrios Kondos, and were sponge divers from the island of Syme. They chose to dive to pass the time when inclement weather forced them to anchor off Antikythera, a little rocky island between Crete and the Peloponnese. Archaeology was irrevocably altered by what transpired. Wearing the bulky canvas suit and copper helmet that were common at the period, Kondos dispatched his diver, Elias Stadiatos, into the water. Stadiatos descended to the ocean floor, where it settled at a depth of roughly 150 feet. His blood froze at what he saw. His view was filled with tangled shapes. In a haunting silence, bodies twisted together.
In a sense, you could describe it as being the technological side of the Greek miracle.
He jerked his signal line in terror and leaped back to the surface. He was certain that he had discovered a mass grave. However, these weren't dead people. They were statues, bronze statues that were overturned in the wreckage of an old ship and stuck in mid-air. Kondos himself emerged from the ocean with evidence. Centuries of corrosion have turned a bronze arm green. The first systematic underwater excavation in Greek waters began with only one artifact. When the Greek Navy joined the divers the following year, they recovered numerous shattered antiques, marble statues, exquisite glassware, and coins. By 1901, the National Archaeological Museum in Athens was unpacking containers of this incredible cargo. An uninteresting mass of rotten wood and rusted bronze sat among them, disregarded as mere rubble. It remained unaltered until May 17, 1902, when Valerio Stai, a museum scholar, noticed a bronze gear with teeth protruding from the crust. The Antikythera Mechanism, one of archaeology's biggest mysteries, was revealed by that finding. The machine was older than the actual wreck of a ship that went down in the second quarter of the 1st century BC. The mechanism is now thought to be more than 2,000 years old, having been developed several decades before. Only 82 fragments, or around 1/3 of the original, remain today. Nevertheless, the pieces still include 30 interlocking bronze gears despite being in ruins. The largest, which has hundreds of meticulously hand-cut teeth, is slightly larger than 5 inches across. The remaining parts, which still bear the scars of the water, are all on show behind glass in the Athens Museum. These pieces represent our firm border. They serve as the foundation for all theories because, before speculating about what was lost, we must start with what is actually there, such as bronze, teeth, and scratched inscriptions. The majority of the gearwork is contained in Fragment A, the largest surviving piece. Some preserve faint letters carved into the metal and portions of circular scales. Early X-ray research from the 1970s suggested the complexity of the mechanism. However, A collaborative team from Greece and Britain brought state-of-the-art imaging technology into the museum in 2005, marking a significant advancement. One device was a 12-ton computed tomography scanner known as the Blade Runner, which was constructed in the UK. From every direction, it blasted high-energy X-rays through bronze, creating cross-sections that could be stacked to create a three-dimensional image. The other was a Hewlett-Packard reflectance imaging system that made it possible for scientists to digitally relight the surface and extract minute scratches that are invisible to the human eye. The crew spent 2 weeks uncovering hundreds of text characters carved on the plates in addition to the concealed gears. The machine itself spoke through its own inscriptions for the first time since the wreck. There was a twist. Glitches plagued the greatest magnification scans intended to record details at a resolution of only a few thousandths of an inch. Of the almost 3,000 scan slices in the 2005 session, about 25 did not record, and the fragment itself might have moved a little. The outcome was stripes and fuzz, just where the researchers needed the greatest clarification. However, a University College London researcher went back to the original data in 2018. They meticulously reconstructed it, fixing distortions and adding missing slices. New letters emerged, the reconstruction became more precise, and a number of contentious interpretations became more certain. This was very important. On these plates, a single Greek character has the power to alter a prediction's meaning or a cycle's interpretation. What do the readable sections actually depict, then? Since that side of the house survived the best, let's start by going around the back. The 235 advort, 225 lunar months are shown by a spiral that rounds the top dial 5 times. The 19-year Metonic cycle that maintained the seasonal alignment of Greek lunar solar calendars. It is accompanied by a subdial that counts down to the Calippic cycle, which tightened the long-term accuracy by 76 years. Another spiral with 223 lunar months. The Saros cycle, which is well known for forecasting eclipses, is located in the lowest part. Inside that is a smaller dial that tracks the exophthalmos. A 54-year triple Saros was used to correct the problematic remaining 8 hours in each cycle, guaranteeing that the eclipse time remained accurate. The major Penellic games were scheduled at 4-year intervals, as indicated by another tiny dial. This isn't any speculation. Bronze has these functionalities written on it. The equipment becomes unexpectedly useful when you zoom in closer to the SOS spiral. A tiny symbol, or compact note in Greek, is carried by each cell that might have an eclipse. Whether it is solar or lunar is indicated by a letter. Orda for Helios, the sun, and Sigma for Selene, the moon. An anchor-like symbol is actually a combination of the letters Omega and Rho, which stand for hour and time, respectively. Phrases like of the day or of the night indicate whether or not Greece would be able to see an eclipse. An index letter leading to a block of illustrative text appears beneath each glyph. Details like the shadow's projected direction, the extent of the sun or moon's cover, and even potential color clues are all covered in those works. Suppose a user reads the type, the timing, and the more detailed explanation after rotating the crank to a month and viewing the dial flag in eclipse. That is amazing for a gadget from the 1st century BC. A cultural fingerprint can also be seen in the inscriptions. The whole set of month names on the Metonic dial was discovered in 2008 through a thorough analysis of the rear text. The well-known Athenian calendar did not correspond with them. Rather, Apris and Corcyra were part of the Corinthian family of calendars used in Western Greece. According to scholars, the sequence most closely resembles the Aparate calendar, which may be connected to the Ambracian colony. Calendars are symbols of culture. The maker effectively signed the device's civic identity by engraving those month names. The mechanism's front is much less finished. Only pieces of the cover plates remain after the gears and plates that originally protruded from the main frame were destroyed. Nevertheless, those covers had inscriptions, and the lines that remain are precious. A critical edition of what they dubbed the front cover inscription was released by scholars in 2016. These writings are not riddles of poetry. Each of the 5 known planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, has its precise planetary connections listed. The number of synodic cycles, or phase returns with regard to the Sun, is expressed in the inscription as being equal to whole years and complete zodiacal revolutions. The cover, to put it simply, specifies the integer ratios that the missing gear trains had to replicate. It states that a planet completes a specific number of synodic cycles and zodiacal revolutions after a specified number of years. It's not a clue. It is necessary. These ratios must be met by any frontal reconstruction. This is the reason why the missing half is so difficult. We are not allowed to visualize the sky however we like. The remaining equipment demonstrates the methods the builders employed. The number of wheels and tubes that could fit without colliding is strictly limited by the amount of space in front of the frame, and the inscriptions specify which mathematical periods must be present. All 3 requirements must be met simultaneously for a rebuild to be considered viable: mathematical, spatial, and mechanical. And that is where the actual difficulty starts: restoring the lost front and demonstrating its viability. How the missing front was recreated. It took meticulous engineering rather than hunches to piece together the anti-theft mechanism's missing front half. Researchers gradually used the previously established hard facts, such as tooth sizes, surviving inscriptions, gear counts, and the actual bronze framework, as building blocks to construct the missing half. Additionally, artificial intelligence offered researchers an advantage before the gears could be rebuilt. DeepMind developed a model called Ithaca that aids in the restoration of damaged Greek inscriptions. It can accurately predict missing letters with a 62% accuracy rate when used alone. However, technology improves human historians' accuracy from roughly 25% to over 70% when used in conjunction with them. This is significant because the front must strike the numbers etched on the cover plates. Clearer, more assured readings reduce the number of design possibilities, reducing uncertainty and strengthening the course of action. In the early 2000s, Michael T. Wright was the first to genuinely demonstrate that the front may be more than a theory. Wright created working models by hand while serving as curator at the Science Museum in London. In order to mimic the irregular motion of planets, he developed epicyclic gearing, which consists of tiny gears positioned on arms that revolve around bigger gears. He also employed the pin and slot device, a clever configuration in which the follower gear is forced to smoothly accelerate and decelerate when a pin moves inside a slot. Since planets seem to alter pace in the sky, ancient Greek astronomers anticipated such erratic motion long before the cover writings were completely understood. Wright even constructed a complete model of a planetarium. Was his design flawless? The number. But he used methods that suited the ancient Greek toolbox to show in solid brass that the front could, in fact, carry planetary motions. His constructions changed the argument from maybe to yes, we can do this. Subsequent groups remained steadfast on that basis. The pivotal moment occurred in 2021 when a group from University College London presented what they dubbed their cosmic model. This wasn't a computer animation or a lovely sketch. It was a complete front-side architecture according to strict guidelines. The surviving frame's physical clearances have to accommodate it. It had to permit shafts and tubes to travel through the center without colliding, and it had to replicate the precise integer time relations etched into the inscriptions. The system for the Moon and a little dome for Earth are at the center of this idea. The planetary gear trains are encircled by that core, with their outputs feeding into a collection of slender, nested tubes there. This bundle, which the researchers dubbed the Central Coaxial Output, or CCO, serves as the system's structural core. It enables several displays to share a hub without running into one another. In this reconstruction, the mechanism's face is organized as concentric rings, as opposed to a swarm of overlapping points. Although it can sound superficial, that is actually quite important. Rings lessen issues with parallax, the challenge of reading with several hands covering one another, and they correspond to the description of a ring-organized universe in the preserved user manual language. Relocating the original driving gears for the actual Sun and the 3 outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, was one of the best packaging decisions. These starter gears were positioned behind the large circular plate, known as the CP in the 2021 paper, in earlier reconstructions. That choice was always a nightmare. Uncomfortable brackets were required to reach around, adding mass, and were unlikely to have been used by ancient builders. By shifting those gears to the front, the UCL team was able to resolve the issue. The bracket issue was resolved, space was made available, and every planetary train had a clear route to the central output, thanks to that one change. A fixed gear, designated 56 in the article, is positioned at dead center, and compact epicyclic sets are supported by that fixed anchor. A move like that can only be discovered after weeks of simulated layouts that collide until a single opening opens and everything falls into place. Gear sharing contributes to this layout's elegance. The UCL team borrowed important wheels from a few trains rather than creating each planet from the ground up. The fixed gear, 56, which anchors the 3 superior planets, is also used by the actual Sun, which has the same gear, 52, as Saturn. Jupiter and Mars share another piece of equipment with the number 64. When your available space is measured in tenths of an inch, that kind of economy is crucial. Each additional arbor increases thickness, and each new wheel raises the possibility of a collision. The model maintains its tightness and thinness by sharing gears. Additionally, a physical skeleton that was maintained in one sizable surviving fragment had to be respected during the rebuild. The main drive wheel has 4 spokes, and the rim is surrounded by sets of pillars. In the past, those pillars held 2 plates, the round CP mounted on longer pillars and a rectangular strap mounted on shorter ones. That frame serves as a sandwich in the UCL design. They crammed 9 tightly stacked gearing layers into a 0.59-inch gap between the large wheel and the strap. The base of the inner planet trains, the lunar node mechanism, and the mean sun drive are all located in that confined space. They managed to fit the majority of the equipment for the Sun and outer planets inside a 9.4 TP cephimeters, about 0.38, in gap between the strap and the CP. The straps, 11 to tilt with respect to the spokes, is a benefit rather than a mistake. Because of that angle, Venus and Mercury have just enough room to move their epicyclic sections past their neighbors. This is packing at the watchmaker level, expressed in fractions of an inch. A little block on spoke D with an enigmatic hole through it provides one of the most rewarding detection moments of the renovation. No one was able to explain its purpose for years. It was resolved by the architecture of 2021. Both the Sun and the Moon must provide input for the little black and white moon sphere on the front to display the proper phase. However, you don't want to repeat the Sun calculation in order to drive the Moon if the front face is constructed as rings. And that, family, is where the Antikythera Mechanism stops being just an artifact and becomes a revelation. A 2,000-year-old machine built with the precision of a clock centuries before clocks even existed. Its gears, ratios, and inscriptions whisper that ancient minds once grasped the language of the cosmos with an elegance we're only beginning to rediscover. Each tooth, each fragment, each hidden letter proves that genius is not bound by time. It's only buried by history. The sea kept its secret for 2 millennia. Now, it's our turn to listen, to learn, and to remember what humanity once dared to build.